Okay, my beautiful people, in this video, I want to talk about something very exciting and very fun and very cool, and that is double slit experiment. You must have heard of double slit experiment. Let's expand on it. What is double slit experiment? It's an experiment done over 100 years ago in quantum physics that made scientists question reality, nature of reality, of how we understand reality. Okay? It's a very simple experiment. So, okay, you all heard of atom. An atom has two main components, the nucleus that's in the middle and the electron that's on the outside, that's constantly moving as we think. Well, we're actually not sure what electron is, truly, but we assume it's a particle. We think it's a particle. And so what scientists have done is they've been shooting electrons through two slits. And as you imagine, when you throw a ball through a slit, it will arrive exactly right here. And when you throw another ball here, it will arrive here. So they've been shooting electrons like this, and they've been getting this result when they've been doing it with a camera. Okay, it's really simple. If you do it through one slit, you throw a bunch of balls like this. Some of them are going to bounce off, and the ones that are going to pass through, they're going to end up here. Kind of, they're kind of doing it in a glued way here. All right. Now, if you would be doing the same thing, but with water, you'd have a waves interference pattern like this, as such over here. You have a wave interference pattern. Now, what happened with electron is when you observe an electron, it behaves like a particle. So it gives you the pattern as if it's being a particle. But when you don't have an observer, as if when you don't have a camera, it gives you this sort of interference pattern as if it's a wave. Very simple. Okay? What does that mean? This experiment proves that the reality is a realm of possibility, and it can be almost anything within the possible wave sequence. And when observed, it becomes something really solid. I'm going to repeat this. Reality exists as a wave of possibility, probability. It can be almost anything in the world. But when observed, it becomes something very solidified, very solid, very much real. This feels like a solid object, right? So observing actually makes a huge difference. Now, before in science, it was assumed that observing doesn't make any difference, that we are not making any impact by observing the reality. Reality is out there. It happens by itself. And us observing it makes no difference. Now, this experiment proves that observing makes a huge difference and solidifies reality right here, right now, as it is. What does that mean for you? What does that mean for you as a spiritual being on this planet? By the way, I've heard of this experiment when I was like 12 or something, or 15, not older than 15. It's very much kind of introduction to quantum physics kind of level, somewhere between 12 and 15, I heard of this experiment, and that made me think like, oh, okay, like question reality. Now, I've never done this experiment myself, but I always felt like there's something beyond. And so what this experiment is, one of the experiments that proved to us that it's one of the evidences that I use towards the claim that you manifest your own reality with your mind. Now, there's more experiments I'm going to go over, but this is the fundamental one. Because the smallest of the particles, electron, that's always on the outside of the atom, can be anything else. Now, you never observe the atom, you only interact with the electrons. The reason you feel something when you push two fingers together is because electrons on the outside of each of the atoms on the surface are pushing itself apart. So you never really touch anything. You never really touch yourself. You never really touch this item. You never really touch another person. There's always a little bit of distance. And that's, you know, as if two magnets are being repelled by each other. When you put two magnets, it's really, really hard to put them close to each other, especially if they're really strong. Well, electron is a lot stronger than that. And the forces on that scale are even stronger, you know? That's why nuclear power is such a almost infinite source of energy, because we're harnessing this atomic and subatomic power. And so the pull, the push and pull between them is so hard that you never really touch anything. It's all an illusion. It seems like that. It seems real. And so reality seems this way. And so you basing this experiment, using this as evidence that reality can be anything else. But when you observe it with your current state of mind, it becomes that. So it's an evidence that by you changing your mind, you changing your thoughts, you changing your beliefs, you changing your state, you changing what you talk about, is a way to create different reality. Now, you might say this is a little bit far-fetched, but this is one of the evidences, and there's going to be more. We're going to add more into this, but this is a fundamental one. Okay, and we're going to look over a few more later on.